Now, may I please request Puneeta to take forward this session?
Thanks, Saurabh. Thank you and welcome, everyone. I know I've been very excited about re-meeting an old friend of mine. It's always such a joy, Aruna, to just be in your presence and just receive all that. It's on. I think it's on. Yeah. Your book, The Personal is Political, is a rich, it's a conversation with Aruna and the reader. It's, a chronicle of her journey where you want to go more and more. But, before I introduce you, Aruna, I just want to, what Gopal Gandhi, called you Aruna the Alpha, right? An alpha, and I'm going to read it out because I love the way he summed it up. An alpha in her passion for justice, in her steadfastness in solidarity with the underprivileged, determination in struggle, singular clarity of purpose, and cocking a snook at the arrogance of power. I love that. And that is just so you, Aruna. Aruna, I was just, it's Aruna, the dissenter, the Democrat, the unionist, the feminist, the activist, etc., etc. But as I was saying to you, for me, you are Aruna, the seeker. You're constantly questioning, exploring, discovering, recalibrating, realigning. It's amazing what the journey has been. Aruna, I've been always very interested in asking this question. It's not there in the book. A Tambram, okay, who had an amazing, privileged upbringing, education, to land up, well, first the IAS, right? And then in 1975, to give it all up and go to Rajasthan. What was the impetus? What propelled you to do that? Because you had your whole life ahead of you. Here, we kind of, the aspirations to join the civil services is still right up there for all the young people. You got there and you gave it up. Why?
The thing is that you pursue a kind of logic, if you like. And every time I talk, I think of a different reason why I gave up that kind of power. And you follow a different kind of logic. And this is a logic of truth and justice. And if you follow that logic of why people are hungry, why people are unequal, why there is social inequality, why there is hunger, then the logic of your life is not determined by conventional power. You have the extraordinary privilege of redefining power. And
Right.
That's what happened to me, I think. I understood that the power was not vested in that chair or in that office. That power was vested in the fact that I was who I was. Access to the best in education, able to think culturally, musically, in literary terms. I did an MA in English literature. So
Right.
I had everything going. And yet, it did not lead me to understand the logic of equality and justice somewhere. And I felt that perhaps the answer was somewhere else. And that's why I've kept changing. First to an NGO in Tilonia, with the Social Work and Research Center, the Barefoot College, where I worked for 9 years, and in a sense, de-schooled myself. I had to forget so many things and understand that not everyone lives by your standards, not everyone understands your logic, not everyone understands your cultural nuances, that there are many languages, and there's the language of people, there's the language of the Dalits, there's the language of women, there's the language of the minorities. So understanding that, so I was de-schooled. But thereafter, I went seeking again and
Right.
left that and went off to live in a mud hut in the middle of a village where I thought living with people might take me closer to my understanding. And in some ways, it did.
So that was your journey to Devdungri. But for a privileged person, what was that impetus? Was there a role model? I know that, you come from a lineage of very strong women. Your grandmother, your great-grandmother actually had stepped out and she was a lecturer in a college?
My grandmother was an honorary magistrate.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Oh my God, okay. So clearly, a lineage of very, very strong, empowered women. But to leave, it's like leaving a world behind, a different universe. And, you went to work with the rural poor, and you have this very lovely line where you say that there's poverty everywhere, but amongst the rural poor, there is at least the veneer of dignity there, right? Rather than all the migrants who crowd the cities, and there's no humanity left there. So what was that? I mean, why did you go to Devdungri then? What were you looking for then?
I come from Tamil Nadu. I am not a Rajasthani. And those of you who don't know India very well, the South has a very different code of conduct for women than the North has.
Yes.
We don't cover our heads, we speak, and literacy has many generations. And so my great-grandmother was literate, my mother, grandmother were all literate. So it was not a question of fighting for literacy, nor even for fighting to go to school. The power of my parents, grandparents, was in the fact that you could do what you wanted to do with limitations. So every generation pushed it. So in the pushing of it, I feel that having inherited a grandmother who objected to caste and took her children to eat with a vegetarian family, taking her children to eat with Muslim friends and Christian friends, and to break all those social barriers of caste, her granddaughter could not sit back and say, this is enough. She had to do something more than that. So at a very level of my family and the privilege that I've had, I had to push more boundaries. So that's probably one reason why I did that. But when I came to Rajasthan, it was a shock. Because when we talk, without any worry. But in Rajasthan, the first time I came, the women had their veils till their waist and they wouldn't talk to me. That shocked me. They were whispering to me, And I thought, why have all women lost their voices?
Right.
Then I realized that in public you can't speak. You can't speak to an outsider. This is, of course, 50 years ago. It's not true today. So I had to find my way.
There's this lovely story where you go to a woman's house and she asks you, why are you here? She said, no, I've come to, speak with you. I just want to, and she says, go away. I don't want a job. I don't want anything. You're disturbing me. Go away, right? And that was the first time you went not with the power of being an officer and the humbling experience of being able to connect, of getting them to accept you. That must have been quite a learning, right?
I think learning comes from severe shock as much as from anything else. Many of you may agree with me. Huh?
Okay.
I was shocked. I said, imagine this woman doesn't even want to say hello to me. She just said, that's the door and please go because, I never asked you to come. Why are you here? You're preventing me from doing all my daily chores and I don't want to get into the IAS. I do not want to be literate and I don't want to call my husband by his first name.
Wow, okay.
They were shocked that I called my husband by his first name and they said, we don't want to do that. We're quite happy as we are. Just go because I have to tend to my animals, I have to go to the fields, I have to cook. And then I realized how arrogant I was. Just to assume that I had the right to walk into someone's life, their home, and demand time. I mean, how would I have reacted? If somebody had pushed the bell in an urban home which I had frequented and lived, and said to me, when I was extremely busy, I want to talk to you, probably I would have been a little more polite, but I would have also said, that's the door. So why do I expect her not to be like me? So I went back and instead of feeling dejected, I sat back and thought she had every right to tell me not to be there. So how do I get around it? And that led me to find out when she can meet me, how she can meet me. And I have hundreds of thousands of Rajasthani friends who are women now today. Extraordinary number. And every village I go, I know somebody. I have huge number of women friends. And many of my women friends are in the audience. And they will vouchsafe that it did work because it's the privileged who are here, but the underprivileged or unprivileged also large numbers of people who then became part of our campaigns.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your whole focus has been on power to the people, Aruna. And in that strive for social justice, and you speak about land and wages, being at one of the core issues that you've been sort of focusing on. And the milestones, I mean, there's so many which I'd like you to just, the RTI Act, MGNREGA, right? What actually brought about RTI? I mean, we're aware of it. Some of us know, but there's a generation out there who doesn't know about the Right to Information Act, which demands transparency and accountability from the government, right, at every step. Would you like to just tell us that what inspired you? And there's a case around it, a case study, I mean, a story behind how the RTI actually then came into becoming an act.
Well, yes, there's a book called the RTI Story, which came out 3 or 4 years ago. If you're interested, you can read it for the details. Must be there in the bookshop. But what actually pushed me and my colleagues, many of them sitting in the audience, is again that logic. Again, the seeking of how do you get your rights. And we are Gandhians. In that sense, in India, if you say you're a Gandhian, it means that you do not believe in violent protest. That you use passive resistance, you use street protest, you use all other means of non-violent protest that we have. Satyagraha, yeah. What Gandhiji called Satyagraha. We believe in Ambedkar, we believe even in some aspects of Marx, but our methods are all Gandhian. We do not agree that you can fight your government with violence and still be alive to fight for the people. It's not possible. So in that mode of seeking how you can access your power, we really knew that those documents that were secret somehow held the key to our survival, key to our good health, key to my wages, key to my rights. And Mohanji, who was an illiterate bard who worked with us, a Dalit great poet, but not literate. He composed so many beautiful songs. And one song that he sang, he said in Rajasthani and Hindi, maybe you will understand, but I think, should I speak in English alone or should I use a few Hindi words?
You can, please.
उन्होंने कहा कि पुराने जो पहले वाले चोर जो थे बंदूक से मारते थे, आज के चोर तो कलम से मारते हैं राज चोरों का. So he said, the old system killed you with a gun. The new system kills you with a pen. We are ruled by criminals and by thieves. And this song was so powerful that it really reached out to everybody and people understood that that document is to come out. It began with the struggle for wages. We used to sit and ask for wages. And now it's 265 rupees a day, which is what we all earn as an honorarium. But in any case, at that time, it was 44 rupees a day, just barely enough for a family to survive. And government on its own works would say, you have not done your work, we won't pay you. Protest after protest after protest, hunger strike after hunger strike. We would achieve a little bit and go back 10 paces. So we decided those documents must come out, which prove that we worked, that we are entitled to a wage. And that's how the battle began. And from there, it grew into a huge campaign. The whole of India got involved because transparency and accountability are words people understand. And what Nikhil Shankar and I and many other colleagues of mine, Kavita, who are all there in the audience, did was actually transform that angst and that understanding into legalese, into formal language, into English, if you like, into government language, into bureaucratic language, what the media would buy, and the media joined us, and then later on, of course, it was an amazing campaign. It was a democratic campaign, and it was still today, it is still sometimes I get up and find myself awestruck that it actually happened. Yes.
I agree.
And the RTI was passed in 2005 by the Indian Parliament, and I think every one of us was just, we didn't rejoice, we didn't shout and scream, we just stood there in silence and said, it's actually happened.
Many congratulations. And like that, your Minimum Wages Guarantee Act, MGNREGA, right? As you've said in your book, that it really helped during the pandemic. But even before that, Aruna, I remember I was actually commissioned to do a documentary by the Ministry of External Affairs in 2011. And at that point, what we were told, you know, this is about khudai and building assets which may be useful, may not be useful. And I traveled to 4 states. I mean, there was Bihar, Rajasthan, UP, and Sikkim. And Sikkim, for me, was an eye-opener. Because there, it wasn't the daily laborer who was working on NREGA. They said that the government is coming to help us build community assets. So every school teacher, every person who was employed otherwise, took time out because there was a sense of pride that I'm building an asset, and it was amazing to see how the vision of NREGA, right? And today it's still there. I just hope it continues to survive and grow from strength to strength. But a little bit from you on MGNREGA.
Actually, the demand. Right to information was a popular campaign because it cuts across the urban, the rural, the poor, the rich, the literate, the illiterate. But the demand for employment, which was MGNREGA, and ours is the only country in the world with a right to work law today.
Is that so?
Yes, it is the only country in the world which guarantees every poor worker in the villages of India 100 days employment on minimum wages for fulfilling a task. It's not a dole. You have to work hard and you have to fulfill a task. So the first thing we had to do was to sell it to people to make them understand that this is not something the government gives you, but it's your right under the Constitution. So we had, as I told, this book also is a book about language, about what kind of language to use to talk to whom. And it's been a big challenge. And you have to keep changing your idiom, not only your language. And so when we went to the people of Rajasthan, women and men of Rajasthan were workers, we said to them, you believe in feeding people. Yes, we do. So everything, sometime religious happens, whether you're a Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Christian. In India, we feed people. So we said, how many can you feed? 1,000? If you participate in the demand for MGNREGA, you will feed millions of people because millions of unemployed Indians are going to get work and you will collect your punya. Punya is your
blessings, good karma.
Blessings.
Yeah.
So it immediately appealed. That's why I'm saying that we have to package all that we feel in the language people understand. And for 11 years, we fought on the streets of Delhi, Rajasthan, in Tamil Nadu, in Odisha, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, everywhere, Andhra Pradesh, Sikkim, everywhere that there was unemployment, people came on the streets asking for this right. It's an amazingly empowering thing. And finally, when I was in an advisory group with the government, sitting with the Prime Minister and with the head of the party,
the National Advisory
Advisory Council, they still did not pass the law easily because the bureaucrats did not want it. So we went on a huge strike. And I had asked permission, by the way, that was very important for me. When I joined this advisory body, I told the government that I will do two things and you can't stop me. One is protest on the street. And you can't say to me, you're an advisor of the government and you can't protest on the street. And the second thing is, I'll disagree with you publicly because I'm a Democrat. And you have to give me the right to disagree and dissent. And they gave it to me. So while I was asking for the law inside the room, I was sitting outside with 20 lakh signatures on old saris, on old dhotis, on anything white, old towels, in all the languages of India, from the Parliament House right up to whatever it is on the other side, 2 kilometers lined with these demands. So I think people want it, and if it's a democracy, and we got independence. We have lots of slogans which says we didn't want independence only from the British. We wanted independence from hunger. We wanted independence from ill health. We want freedom from ill health. Freedom. We wanted this kind of freedom. Where is that freedom? So it translates into a language which people admit, understand, and relate to immediately, and then they give time. So NREGA has been, in one sense, again that logic of seeing that people are less hungry. During the meltdown, when the whole world was reeling, our rural markets were thriving because people in the villages were earning money and they were spending it in the local market. So the local market registered higher sales of motorcycles and refrigerators than ever before because the shopkeepers, because they were thriving, were buying luxury items and we were buying food from them. I think there is a bias. If you remove the bias, then it is something that has really benefited the country. And Joseph Stiglitz, who got the Nobel for economics, came here and said that NREGA is one of the best programs, not only for alleviating poverty, but for developing democracy. So
Fantastic.
It was a good thing that we did, all of us together, yes.
Yeah, and Could we push the bar of 100 days to a little more, or that's something else?
Actually, Government of India doesn't give us more than 100 days, but Rajasthan government gives us 150 days. So state governments have started giving us more days. So we are pushing the state governments to give us more days. And we have produced, by the way, they say, where are the assets? We have produced some of the best assets for collecting rainwater harvesting. We've increased local production. We've increased the water in the wells. We've improved the soil. And women have stayed home. And because they have stayed home, there was a head of the UNDP in Delhi. She met me and said, there are two stories. I hear one from Delhi saying that it's a waste of money. And you tell me it's fantastic. So I said to her, why don't you come?
Right.
So she came to our place in Devdungri in Rajasthan district. And I said, oh, you talk directly, I'll just translate. So she stood with 300, 400 women sitting there and she said to them, what have you got from NREGA? They said, dignity. We don't travel anymore. We don't have to go hunting for work, traveling miles. We stay home so our children go to school. We stay home, therefore their health has improved. We stay home because we've worked on our own development and our own infrastructure. We are not in debt and many other things besides. So the kind of thing that falls out of these programs and the way it's projected in an urban area, there's a sea of difference. Actually, if you go and live in a village, you'll find out how much they want dignity. They are not beggars, you know. The idea that poor are beggars is rubbish. Nobody in their right senses wants to beg. Everyone wants to live with dignity.
They just want work.
They want work.
Yeah.
So we had a slogan, you know, that these two hands want work and they want work with decent wages. In Hindi, we used to say, har haath ko kaam do, kaam ka pura daam do. That give us work and give us full wages. And it really got extremely popular in all the Indian languages.
So Aruna, the title of your book, The Personal is Political. I mean, this is a feminist slogan that you've referred to. And the fact that every choice we make as individuals, right, is actually a political statement that we're, you know, putting out. You also speak about the discomfort of conscience. And it's very interesting. I want you to tell us a little about the different layers here. As an activist, we've spoken about to act or not to act, how much to push. What are some of the struggles that you have gone through personally in your battle? I mean, again, are you focusing on the war, the bigger war, or is it little battles that lead up to it? I want a glimpse into your own inner world. What have been the conflicting challenges that you have been dealing with, and maybe demons that are still there with you?
I think they last for life, but anyway. The personal is political begins with my identity as a woman, begins with my struggle all through life. No matter how much power I got, to assert that my way of thinking has a right to be articulated, understood, and acted upon. I don't know how many women in the audience have felt it, but no matter which seat you occupy, no matter what power structure you're part of, you're always sidelined, subtly sidelined. You're told, no, it's okay, but, And in my case, I have had a very good, equal marriage with a husband who gave me freedom and all of that. But nevertheless, there was always a slight edge. Always a slight edge. And whether my friends, even with my friends in MKSS or my friends wherever I've worked, majority of men get together, they have a tendency, and this is the way, and that's one thing I've argued in this book, which is different from my political life, is that our life is intertwined with politics. And so personal is always political for women. It's not just the fact that we have to uncover our heads or that we can find a man of our choice. It's also the use of language, it's the nuances, it's the discretion, and it's very subtle, but it's used against us. And therefore, the assertion is a day-to-day, hour-to-hour occurrence in our lives. And that's what I've been trying to articulate. And as a woman, I'm seen as a very powerful woman. I am a powerful woman, but I'm also powerless at many times, and therefore I wanted to bring notice to that. And this book gave me the space to talk about it. And that's been a very important space for me. And if, as a powerful woman, I have these handicaps, can you imagine what happens to a woman who's not even allowed to speak? It must be tremendously hard. So women's language, women's method of expression, women's songs, you go anywhere. You go to the Barmer and Jaisalmer, where we have the most beautiful singers. Their women are the teachers. They teach the young. But do you think they're ever given the stage? Never. It's the men who sing. And Komal Kothari, who was a great cultural historian in Rajasthan, struggled so hard to get their women on stage to sing. But all that is tradition prevented them. And only Rukma Bai turned up to sing. So that was the thing. And then this discomfort of conscience, I think, is a very separate issue. And I think this is the catch-22 of our lives. We want convenience and comfort at all cost. We know that something is wrong, but if it's going to inconvenience me, then let it be. You know, like a protest on the street is demanding for constitutional rights, which is going to involve you, me, and everybody else. But at the moment, it's preventing me from taking a straight route and I have to take a detour. And I damn that protest. Oof, why is this protest here on the street? You know, oh God, I wish they weren't protesting. We don't realize that they are giving up their time, their energies and everything to sit there to ask for something for you and me and everybody. It's a general demand. We forget. So I read an article in the New York Times which said that the two great evils of our time are convenience and comfort. That we do not want to give up anything because it's convenient or it's comfortable. And that's why we stay in power, we stay in cities, we do this. And for me, therefore, if I have to lead a life of relative truth, I'm not a saint, but a life of relative truth, then discomfort is part of the paradigm. I can't give it up. And that is always there. Have I done right? Have I done wrong? Is this better? Is that worse? Should I have said this or should I not have said this? That Aruna never comes in front of the people. She's always hidden inside my rather, I don't know what kind of a face I do have at that time, but that behind that face. But there is that Aruna who questions. And I'm really grateful that I've got a nature which has allowed me to do that questioning. And now, since I'm quite old, elderly, whatever you'd like to call me, I thought I had the freedom to express that kind of discomfort. And this book comes at a time when I think it has given me the space to talk about the discomfort of conscience. And I think we all have it. All have it. And what is an activist? I want to ask from all of you, how many of you have not felt bad when there's atrocities on the street, when somebody is being beaten, some minority is being beaten, some Dalit is being beaten, some woman is being beaten? I just want you to raise your hands. How many of you will feel that, look at it and just turn the other way? And how many, now I want hands to go up, how many of you would feel, oh God, this is awful? So that's the thing. We all feel it. The activist does something about it. That's the only difference.
How many of us
That's
would
the
do
only
something?
difference,
Yeah.
that the activist goes about doing something about it, and that discomfort, they're willing to take on discomfort and inconvenience.
So Aruna, to take that forward, lots of times we feel, what is it that I can do? What's the point? Okay, I'll go and sit in that protest, but then what, right? So when you can see something and you want to bring that change, you want to push and you're pushing against this huge wheel, right? What would be, okay, where would I get my inspiration, my hope, my parameter of success? I mean, does it have to be the eradication of something I'm fighting, a policy and that is success finally, but it seems so far away that I feel that I'm hesitant to even take the first step. I'm sure that's happened to you because there are so many campaigns, there's so much work you've been doing, right? How did it keep you going? How did it keep you motivated?
I think, there are two kinds of worlds that have supported different people in this struggle. Me, it's been the fact that I have enough introspection to understand how small I am. To imagine that by my going and sitting on the street for 2 days or 1 day or even a week, I can change the monolith of the Indian state, or I can affect a kind of predisposition to hate or to do something that's come down generations. is arrogance. How can I? So I shouldn't put those 2 days in that slot.
Okay.
I should put those 2 days that somebody has to begin somewhere. And maybe one day it will happen. And, and for my friends in the village, it's faith. It's religious faith. They feel that we must keep striving. But the result is not in our hands. In every religion, there is a saying which says, we must do it, but we can't expect results. So the results are something else. But what I do is important for my own self. So somewhere these two cultures merge. And of course, also, there is tremendous belief and faith in justice, which also says that justice can't fail. Equality has to be. So you blend all these things together because it's not one thing that makes a difference. And then that says you just have to stick it. You think of what people had to do to establish all kinds of things in history, and who are you compared to them? So you must persist. So in that persistence, you draw and attract huge numbers of people who think like you, like the RTI campaign.
Right.
When we began in 1996 in Biawar, a city in Rajasthan, right in the central of Rajasthan, we thought nothing would happen. But we sat there for 40 days and we collected thousands of people. The whole of India came to that campaign then at that time. And we also collected donations in cash because all our campaigns are run with crowdfunding. We don't take any funding from anybody. So we collected 80,000 rupees in cash. And there's a very touching story of a young boy who used to come and give us 2 rupees every day. He used to work in the morning and study in the evening. He gave us 2 rupees every day. And just the other day, we were in Biawar, where they've now put up a memorial to the RTI. And we were standing there and having chai, because the chai walas are all our friends. And they call us the Dharnatri. Dharna karne wale aage. Dharnarti aage. Dharnarti aage. They call us the Dharnartis because we sat on Dharna there. And as we were drinking tea, a big 6 foot high, strapping young man came and said to me, "Do you recognize me?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I was the one who used to give you 2 rupees every day." So that's the kind of involvement that the seeking for justice and truth does to communities. But we have to have time and we have to have belief in. Belief doesn't necessarily mean that you have religious faith, but you have to have the belief in justice. You have to have the belief in logic, in equality, in the Constitution of India.
Which also actually demands a moral code inside you, an ethical core, which I think seems to not be, it seems to be eroded these days. I don't know, there's not that much focus these days on values like ethics, and I hesitate to use the word morality. I'm replacing it with ethics and integrity. That's important, right? Now, how do we get that back, into a center of discussion and say that, it's not old-fashioned to be ethical. Your primary objective doesn't mean that you need to get to your destination no matter what, whoever you trample on. It's the journey that's far more important.
Let me get back to the title of the book, The Personal and the Political. In personal life, I want to be ethical. Even today, we do puja part, we do all kinds of things, to say, please preserve me from evil, whether you go to church or even if you're a non-believer, you want to. So personal life, I won't give a bribe, I won't do this. It's always the I, unless we convert it to the political and we say we. It'll never change. Now that transition, when we got independence, there was not this conflict between the I and the we in public life. The I and the we had to mirror each other. The we had to mirror the I. You couldn't be ethical in private life and completely unethical in your public life. It was not possible. But by some strange circumstances, again I bring in convenience and comfort, we have argued with ourselves, that, it's all right. You can be personally very ethical and publicly, well, I won't do it. But if someone else does it, I'll turn the other way. Just doesn't work because the I is there. So when it affects you, then you really get hysterical. When the same corruption impacts you, I have every day Every month we get calls from people who have been impacted by corruption in such a way that their lives are endangered. So many more than 120 people asking for right to information have been killed in this country. Killed. So in this a tremendous response to ethics in public life, we just have to nudge ourselves out. That's why democracy is such an important political structure, and that's why the Indian Constitution is so important to us. That's why Ambedkar is so important as a symbol for us. Because without that constitution, without secularism, without equality, without justice, we can't get there, but we also have to move ourselves to say that I will do that one thing or the two things that makes my public life mirror my personal life.
Fabulously said. Thank you, Aruna. And I'm going to open it up to any questions from the audience right now. Do we have the mics out there? Yeah. Any questions out there?
What is the possibilities available for orbit outside the state, market and family in the field of non-profit? And what your
आप हिंदी में बता दीजिए what is the क्या बोल रहे हैं आप?
राज्य, स्टेट, परिवार और सोसाइटी,
हाँ,
राज्य, परिवार और
समाज,
राज्य, परिवार और मार्केट,
अच्छा, हाँ.
इसके बाहर कितना स्पेस आपको लगता है आज के हालात में, कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम में? और व्हाट योर मैसेज टू द यूथ, वेदर दे एंगेज इन द नॉन प्रॉफिट वॉलंटरी सेक्टर?
I think times have changed, though I principally agree with you that the market is a huge phenomenon that has happened recently. Many of our governments are run with the help of big multilateral business and big financial institutions. So the divisions between money and politics, which was so clear in my youth, has gone or smudged to such an extent that you don't know who's ruling even the United States today, whether it is Donald Trump or whether it's money, which he's going to get
Or
from
Elon
various
Musk,
sources.
maybe.
Elon Musk or anybody else. I mean, I'm saying it because he's so far away that none of you will be affected by what I say, but almost all governments are functioning like this now. Many governments are functioning like this. So the market plays a very important role, and we have to think of the market. But also the market has increased the profile and the complexity of our battles, because it has no nationality, it has no allegiance, it can park its money wherever, it can have these places where tax-free havens, so you can't catch it. So democracy itself is threatened today. So the first battle, I tell you, sir, that you must fight for democracy today. And in democracy, there are non-voluntary agencies, there are people, there's society, there's everything. We must fight for an ethical, logical, constitutional democracy in India. Let's begin there. We have to begin somewhere. And in that, let's make big business also transparent and accountable. It is not today. Let's make money also accountable. One of the most important RTIs filed was about the money that was given for the elections by private institutions. We won that battle. The Supreme Court ruled in our favor. So we now know how much each party has got in terms of money. So I think we must understand that we have to start somewhere. And like all strategists, we begin with the most vulnerable and the most easy way to begin. But the target and the achievements are huge. We must write and work that logic between what we want and what is happening, and also, of course, somewhere tell people that this personal and political divide is not possible. I want my son to go and I don't have any children, by the way, but anyway, I want my son to go and get a huge job in a multinational in the US. That's fine. But in India, I will fight for. It can't work like that. But in all our families, that's the case. So we must somewhere address that as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Can we do a couple of questions together because we don't have much time left? Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I'm from Rajasthan, from your Karma Bhumi for so long. So my question is regarding MGNREGA. The Rajasthan Lake, which was made between 1662 to 1675, was the first famine relief work of India. So do you feel that our Raja and Maharajas were doing this, were taking care of their people for so long, but the government made after Britishers somewhere forgot to do this, which you reclaimed again? And did these examples from ancient India inspired you to do this? Thank you.
Okay, and then one more with that little girl there. Huh? Bataएं?
Hello, ma'am. It's a pleasure to meet you. But, ma'am, I wanted to ask, like, as we all know, India is 50 years back as compared to other nations, right? So, I wanted to know that there are many ways. For example, the Rajaram Mohan Roy invented a way of taking Vedas as a proof to prove that sati is not included and something like that. Then why can people not take these various ways of solving these all things like poverty? There are still child marriages going on, then women exploitation, everything is going on. So why can't people muster up that courage to come do the protest, that why is India 50 years away back because of us?
I think you have a young activist in the making there.
Well, you'll join our ranks soon. Anyway, the first question, see the intelligent use of labor is one thing. The benefit from that labor goes to whom is quite another. So in Rajasthan, yes, kings and queens used labor to build these huge castles, build the huge temples or mosques or churches or whatever. But who benefited from it? Did the labor or the Dalits, did untouchability go? No. Did that place, those labor, the families of that labor now have huge bits of land in that village? No. Do they have big houses? No. Do they have more access to education? No. With MGNREGA, we're linking it to a huge democratic setup and the Constitution of India, where we are saying you have an obligation to do it for me. There, if the king wanted to, he did. If he was a bad king, he did not. But nowadays, we are saying you have no way you can get out of this obligation. Hamara hak hai, dena hi padega. This is my right and you have to give it to me. So there's a difference in the way you see the state. I'm an equal. I give the vote. I'm an equal. You have one vote. I have one vote. So we are equals. If the economic condition is got a hiatus, you will have to repair it. So there's a difference. And this is far stronger and much longer lasting because children of all these MGNREGA workers have gone to school, have gone to college, to university. They have got better education. They've got more access to health. That means that the whole family goes up, and I know of a MGNREGA worker whose child went to the Central University of Rajasthan and got a degree, master's degree in social work. Now, this kind of upward mobility did not exist at that time. Just got food to eat. So that's one difference. This, actually, I married into the Brahmo Samaj family. So for me, Rajaram Mohan Roy is a very important person, and so many others are very important people. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was a very important person. And they talked a lot about women and how many rights we had. They influenced the whole of India, not only Bengal. Today, we are still struggling and we are fighting. You have to fight other customs like dowry. You also have to look at how nowadays there is a different modern discourse coming up which says women should stay at home. Women should not go out and fight with men. Women should not do this. So we have to take up a new discourse to fight the new threats that are coming to us. Child marriage is, when I came to Rajasthan, 6-month-old babies used to get married. Today, that's not true. Today, they get married, the marriageable age in Rajasthan used to be 18 for girls. I think they've raised it to 21, if I'm not mistaken. And men, it's still 18, and men, it's 21. By the time a girl is 18, she's fit to be married. And in the older tradition, they used to test your strength. Can you lift 2 pitchers of water on your head? Can you grind? Yes, that used to be indication to send the girl to her in-laws. Though they got them married early, they remained with their parents. I agree that we have to fight all these evils. But to fight these evils and these social customs, we need people who will go into and talk about, there are newer things. Now it's dowry. The biggest problem is dowry. And if you all don't mind my saying it, The people we look up to in society are spending trillions of dollars, millions of rupees, trillions of rupees, millions of dollars on big weddings.
Which are
And
almost
what is happening?
obscene.
Why should we
Yeah,
do this?
Yeah.
In my generation, we believed in simple weddings. You know, you shouldn't spend more than X number of money. I don't even have any indication of marriage on me. I don't wear anything. And I said to them, and they said to me, I said, does my husband have a, you know, in India we wear a
Mangalsutra.
Mangalsutra. So I said, does he have a dog?
Okay.
I don't want to wear this on my neck and to proclaim to everybody that I'm married. I don't want to wear a ring. I don't want to tell anybody what my marital status is. Why should I? So there are personal battles and there are public battles and there are important battles that we should all pick up. I'm extremely grateful to this question, but let me also tell you that there have to be campaigns and we have to join these campaigns. It cannot be done by individuals, and we must begin these campaigns, and we must resist where now old religious tenets are being pushed on every kind of religious community for the woman to go back. Every religion is doing it because I think somewhere they are threatened by us. So we must understand that as women, we have to fight for democracy and for democratic rights and for all the things that Raja Ram Mohan Roy did, and all the others subsequently have done. We must continue to fight for that, and sometimes don't be afraid of going to the street. We say the street is our parliament, the street is our policy room, the street is where, in a democracy, people can express themselves without fear. We must regain that spaces in India and say what we want to do without any fear.
Thank you, Aruna. The street is our parliament. On that note, we'll end. And I would really urge you to buy this book, The Personal is Political, because Aruna shares a lot of her vulnerabilities inside this, and actually they come across as your strength. Yes. And Barefoot College, where Aruna had actually begun her journey, there's an exhibition of their journey photographs, barefoot photographers, at the Jawahar Jail.
There's an exhibition of people, illiterate people without any professional degree having taken photographs, which is up for exhibition in the Jawahar Kala Kendra. Those of you who are interested in democratic expression through art, through photography, should go and have a look.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Saurabh.